Okay, hi students. What I'd like to spend some time now talking about is the demographic transition model. The Rubenstein does a good job at talking about the DTM, but sometimes repetition is the mother of success. So it's a good thing that you're watching this set of notes. So actually, before we begin, it's good for you just to know the basics of the DTM. So you need to know that there are four stages, and I'm sure that within the next couple of years, um, we'll add a fifth stage. There are already a couple of countries that are in stage five that's been talked about in the Rubenstein book, and we'll touch upon that in this set of notes. But we have stage one, stage two, three, and four. And just to describe what the DTM looks like, the graphics, we have this bottom line here representing the crude death rate, and our top line representing the CBR, and then the difference will tell us the population increase. This chart here is obviously telling us the total population for each of the stages. Okay, so it's safe for us to say that in stage one, the total population for any country that was in stage one was pretty low. But let's move on. So, stage one, first of all, it's important for you to know that there are no countries currently that are in stage one. We are past stage one. This is considered the pre industrial time of a country. And we're talking like all the way back to hunter gatherers type stuff, okay? An agrarian society. Population growth, was very slow because we had high birth rates and high death rates, okay? Moving on to stage two, we have um, called early industrial stage. So here we have high birth rates, but the death rates start to decline. And this is good. This is when we start to see some population growth. So the rate of natural increase, or the natural increase rate, increases sharply. Some demographers might call this the population explosion. And it's important for you to know that the growth rate increases not from births, but from a decline in our deaths. Stage two is also known as the epidemiologic transition, Um, this is when we saw lots of improvements in cultures and in societies, improvements in our food supply, um, improvements in medical technology, and our public sanitation technologies also improve. So, this is what gives us a decline in the death rate, but also an increase in our crude birth rate. Stage three is called the later industrial stage. This is when our birth rates start to decline and our death rates pretty much stay the same, or they goes down a little bit. Um, there's no note that growth still occurs, but at a reduced and declining rate. So, whereas in stage two, it was called like a population explosion. Now in stage three, that's when we start to slow down a little. Everything is working towards an equilibrium. Okay, our crude birth rates and our crude death rates. This stage is called the fertility transition. And when we're looking at stage three again, or even if we go back to stage four, we notice that there were reasons as to why our crude death rate was decreasing. And that was because improvements in technology. Now in stage three, we need to look at, okay, why is our crude birth rate decreasing? Well, that deals with known as the fertility transition, and basically focusing on women and their empowerment in terms of increasing literacy among women, and also women starting to enter the workforce. We know that literacy or education and employment definitely affect a woman's decision on if she's going to have children or when she's going to have children. Additionally, societies become more urban and less rural. So we're starting to see families saying, first of all, if we're going to live in the city, we might not have enough space to have lots of children. And also, we don't need a lot of children because we don't live out on a farm or in a rural area where we need children to help us with the chores and so on and so forth. But one thing that you want to focus on in terms of why or how countries are transitioning from this stage 2 to this stage 3, eventually stage 4, is changes for women within a particular society. So this is two very good graphics for you. We see that there's a strong inverse relationship between female literacy and fertility rates. And here we see the percent of adult females who are literate. If you have 0%, then those women are more likely to have a higher fertility rate of up to 8. And then as we look down, it decreases. Down here, we have contraceptive use, increasing availability and use of modern contraception in most LDCs since the 1970s. Then we're at stage 4, post-industrial stage. This is the stage where many of our MDCs are, where our birth rates and our death rates are low. Population growth is very low or zero. And that gets us to a stage 5, our hypothesized stage 5. You need to know it's not part of our classic DTM, but it's definitely something that you want to be familiar with. Much of Europe now or soon will be in this population decline. So countries such as Japan and Germany are in a stage 5. So here is another graphic, key population indicators for some select countries. And again, it tells us the demographic stage that these countries are in. Now, mind you, this was back in 2004 and 5. So like I said, Germany by now needs to be in this area along with Russia with severe population decline. And we could add a number 5 here where we see our crude death rate is higher than our crude birth rate. But if we go back to stage 2, we see high crude birth rate still. Our death rate is decreasing a little. Stage 3, we're starting to see, again, a nice working towards an equilibrium of still a high crude birth rate, a lower crude death rate. I can't remember if I misspoke and said a high or low crude death rate here, but it's a high crude death rate. Oops, excuse me. And then stage 4, where many of our industrialized and MDC countries are located, where we are seeing our crude birth rates and our crude death rates matching up pretty equally, and that means, again, we're reaching that equilibrium. So just a quick slide on summary for the DTM for our LDCs. Industrializing LDCs with some economic development follow the DTM more closely, and they're now transitioning into their stage 3. Remember what we talked about in class, how sometimes models have some shortcomings or some setbacks, okay? So just because we say it's a model doesn't mean that every single country is going to fit this particular model, but it gives us a nice general idea. Lowest income countries have high birth rates and death rates are leveling off at higher rates than the DTM predicts, okay? And in some LDCs, death rates are starting to increase because of epidemics, worsening poverty, and even wars. So there you go. There's some further discussion on the DTM. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I hope that you are doing well. Okay, bye-bye.